The Washington County Quorum Court is now called into session. J.P. Harbison, how are you? All righty, we'll go ahead and get started. J.P. Deacons, will you go ahead and lead us in prayer and pledge?
Yes, sir. Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask blessings on this body as we gather here tonight. I pray that you show us wisdom as we handle the business before us. And I ask that you also show us how to handle the people's business with enthusiasm, joy, and teamwork. Dear Lord, I also ask that you lay a hand on our colleagues in Stone County as they mourn the loss of one of their finest and prepare to lay him to rest and make sense of a tragedy. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, good afternoon, good evening. We have now public comment. Let's see, did we go to public comments? Let me see. Adoption of the agenda.
I move adoption of the agenda, but there may be amendments.
All right.
Judge, I move that we add a resolution as part of the judge's report to the agenda.
All right. So we have an amendment to the, and then Mr. J.P. Harbison. All right. So we have two resolutions to add. Placement. Where are we going to put it? You want to put that in new business? Okay. $15. All right. J.P. Madison.
Judge, I wanted to make sure something was correct. Item 10 is showing that it's on its second reading.
Item 10.
And it only got 7 votes at the last meeting, so that would mean it would not have advanced to second reading, and I just don't want us to mess something up on that.
Is that 8?
It would have required 8 to stay alive, and it was tied 7-7. So
Let me do a check, Counselor.
So the way it is on an appropriation ordinance, in order to pass on the first reading, it has to get 10 votes. If it's not, it's treated just like a first reading and moved on to a second reading.
right, but it didn't get 8 votes.
It doesn't have to. You're only required under Arkansas law to vote after the third and final reading. So you technically aren't. There's no point or purpose in voting because something automatically moves on without a vote to a second and then third reading, and that's pursuant to state law.
But it failed at the last meeting. It
votes
only
are-
got 7 votes. I
Right.
mean, it didn't get 8.
But it doesn't have to. It could have had 1 vote. It would have moved on to the second reading by the virtue of
We
the state
voted
law.
on it. Well, I'm very concerned that that's procedurally irregular because I understood that J.P. Harbison was going to bring back a new ordinance, and I thought that would resolve it. I don't want anything with this funding issue to be in jeopardy, but when something only gets 7 votes, it fails.
J.P.
So-
Harbison, you had anything? Okay. J.P.
Okay, I
Madison?
move adoption of the agenda as amended.
All right. Adoption of the agenda, first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Preliminary motions.
I move that ordinances and resolutions be read by title only.
All right. As second, all in favor? And those opposed? All right, preliminary motion is passed. All right, now we got the citizens' comments, and what a great day. We have quite a full house, so again, at this point, we have public comments where we will ask citizens to come up and share with us things that they see going on in the county, things that they like to share, comment. This is the time. Public comments. Public comments, all right. Then we'll just move right on to the approval of minutes.
I
June
move
minutes.
approval of the minutes, and I did read them.
All right, and we have we got a first and a second, J.P. Ecke with the second. There being no corrections, minutes are approved. And we will look at item 7, the judge's report. A little different today. We're going to end up, in your package, you should have item 7.1, which is the disposal report. That's already in there. I think there was a few items on there. Tonight is going to be some recognition, and I want to go ahead and bring up Assessor Hill, and go ahead and share who we're recognizing tonight.
Thank you for tonight. We're getting ready to enter our appraisal, busy time for our appraisers this year, as we just mailed out 4,363 change of values. So this means either it was a remodel, an addition, or a new full built-out construction. So with that, with those change of values, we'll get a couple hundred of phone calls. As part of the property owner's Bill of Rights, if you do not agree with the value that the assessor has put on your property, you can appeal that value. So we start with what's called an informal meeting, which is over the phone, and we talk to the property owner. If they are still not satisfied, then they can schedule an appointment through the county clerk's office to go before the Board of Equalization. Which brings us to our recognitions tonight. We have 2 men who have served on the Board of Equalization. And I'll just kind of talk a little bit about them, then we'll have them come up together and present the rewards. Mr. Wesley Cannon was appointed by the school district, by the schools. And so he serves representing the schools in the county. And he was appointed in 1999, and so he has served 20 years on the Board of Equalization, making sure that property owners are heard, treated fairly, and that the schools are also protected too. And then Mr. Carl Johnson was appointed by the county judge in 1998. And so he just slightly had 1 year on Mr. Cannon, but has served 21 years on the Board of Equalization as well. Both these men, it was amazing watching them serve the people as they come in, treating them with dignity and respect, and hearing out their appeals and their cries, and helping offer understanding on, the way that we do our job as the assessor's office. So it was very good to have these men here. We are definitely going to miss them, but Washington County really has a very good reputation on the way that we treat our property owners, and a lot of that has to do with these 2 men and their years of service and the way that they treated and respected the property owners in the county. And so with that, I went and we got them just a small commemorative token of our appreciation. It says Washington County Distinguished Service Award, presented to Carl Johnson and then Wesley Cannon, given with sincere appreciation for your outstanding dedication and service. And I know that these men would continue to serve on there if their health would allow them to, but they just physically really aren't capable of doing that anymore. And so they've passed the baton on for this year, and so we just want to recognize them. And so I'll have Mr. Carl Johnson, could you and your wife come? You want to do that back here? We'll just come up here with this, make a good picture moment.
Do you have the other board members come? Any other board members come? Okay, all right.
So we'll have you guys up here, we'll make this up.
Here, here.
Oh, no, you stay. I'm sure you had to listen to a lot of stuff going on.
You ready?
Thank you. Kenneth, you want to come this way? And your wife and your daughter.
All right.
Give him a hand.
Okay.
Thank you guys for
Thank you.
this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Cannon and Mr. Johnson. Okay, we also now have another recognition. The Juvenile Detention Center is seeing our very own director of the JDC retire after 29 years. Washington County has been fortunate to have such a talent, and Jeannie Mack is not only a leader in youth support and services, but clearly a leader across the state, known across the country for her innovation, her success. And so with that, Ms. Jeannie Mack, we're going to have a resolution that we want to share with you. We'll have it signed. Where's Ms. Jeannie Mack? Come on up here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Take your last seat in the hot seat. Let me just read the resolution, and then you can share a few comments with us. A resolution in recognition of the service of Jeannie Mack as Washington County Juvenile Detention Center Director. Whereas Jeannie Mack has worked for the Washington County Juvenile Detention Center since August of 1990. Whereas Jeannie Mack has served under 4 county judges and too many quorum courts to enumerate. Whereas Jeannie Mack has been the recipient of many awards, she has developed people, tools, and resources that supports juvenile detention centers across the state. Whereas Jeannie Mack will retire after 29 years of service, now therefore be resolved by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, on behalf of the citizens of Washington County, the Quorum Court, and the County Judge, Joseph Wood, hereby commend Jeannie Mack for her dedicated service to Washington County and express their true appreciation for you and the work and a job well done. Thank you. All right, talk to us, Jeannie Mack, Director Mack.
I can't tell everybody how very much I appreciate this opportunity these last 29 years. It's been phenomenal to watch the county grow, to watch you allow us to grow JDC to where it is today. So just thank you for all of everything that you've supported throughout the years. It's the one thing I can say, the Quorum Court always supported us, and I certainly appreciate that all these years. So thank yourselves, too.
Are you going to tell us where you're heading so we can go find you?
I'm going back home to Fort Smith,
Oh,
so
excellent.
be around family. So.
Good. Well, thank you. We'll have a resolution, all the JPs will sign it, and then we'll share that with you during your retirement farewell soiree or whatever it's going
This
to be.
isn't it?
Yeah, you got to do it again. This is practice, right?
All right.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Jeannie
so
Mack.
much. I appreciate
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thanks.
And the last item I want to share is we had a number of JPs, as opposed to me talking about, again, some of the departments or coroner or assessor, circuit clerk. We want to just go ahead. I want to ask the JPs who went to DC if you have one tidbit, one item that you would like to share with everyone. This will be your time. So, JP Johnson, you got one thing that you'd like to maybe share?
The only thing I've got is very, very obvious that the Trump administration was reaching out to county level newly elected officials, and every single person that spoke to us talked about eliminating regulation.
All right. JP Cunningham?
I thought it was really helpful when we got to go meet with Senator Bozeman and Congressman Womack, just to, get to meet them in person and discuss some of our issues we're having.
Good. JP Yanez, I think she's going to be delayed. JP Duncan, or JP Deacons, I'm sorry.
One thing that was impressed upon me is our nation's capital is very inspiring, and it kind of reinstilled in me that we're here to serve the people, and that's what our number one goal ought to be. But also, I think the interconnectedness of our levels of government really stood out to me, and how we're all in this together, and we need to help each other out.
Good. JP Duncan.
Yeah, the opportunity to both meet with our state elected officials, to meet with Bozeman and hear about potential resources that we can tap into that we're not as of now, and then also to hear from senior level officials at the White House was pretty incredible. So as we talked to other individuals from across the state of Arkansas and then Louisiana, Texas, it was interesting. There's pretty similar patterns. Mm-hmm. So we're not the only people experiencing the troubles we're experiencing with jail overcrowding and opioids and all these things that we're dealing with. This is a common thread across probably not just the South, but the entire U.S. So interesting to learn from not just the elected officials but also the other elected officials from other states nearby.
Good. JP Jenkins.
I'd like to echo JP Duncan. It was interesting to me to be able to speak with other elected officials from around the states that were represented there, and to hear what's going on in other states and the different issues that they're tackling just like ours. And to meet with the representatives was absolutely awesome, because we were able to speak about things and they took notes and listened to what we had to say, and so it was a great experience.
Great.
Thank you.
JP Hires, I think she went as well. Okay. JP Lemming.
It's really good to know who you're talking to when you call the folks on the phone. And we really learned that female pay their money when they get ready. And we really learned a lot of stuff there, and it was interesting. It really was.
Very good. I had a visit with Senator Bozeman probably a week after you guys got back, and he went on and talked about how appreciative he was of you guys coming, and he said, man, you got a whole new court, and so I'm sure they're going to learn, and you'll see the evidence of that come out over time. So again, he was really appreciative that you guys got a chance to spend some time with him. So again, thank you guys. JP Lemming.
Bowman didn't have no choice. We rode the plane with him from Fayetteville all the way there.
He was on lock, huh?
And we chased him around.
Excellent. All right. Let's go ahead to item 8, unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is an ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit. Brian, would you go ahead and read the ordinance, and then JP Pine, will you introduce it? Item 8.
This is an ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit. I didn't realize that was the only time.
Okay, and as you know, we have some people on the court that intend to go and appeal this, so I'm just going to say that I don't ever feel comfortable clashing with our judiciary branch or trying to get an end run around them. That's part of this system here in the county, as it is nationwide. It's a system of checks and balances, and the judiciary branch is there to make sure we don't get out of line. And I'm one of the people that voted to deny this, but I personally don't see it being productive for this branch, this court, to get into a clash with the judiciary branch, the circuit court. So far, it's not turned out very well. I was pleased that we all openly, honestly expressed our reason to deny this development. However, the circuit court didn't see it our way for, I'm sure, legal, constitutional reasons. And I'm not for going on to a higher court and trying to explain to them or tell them something else that we didn't say before. In other words, change our story by using different words or something like that. And I'm hoping if this goes on, if this court votes to appeal this, the ones that vote to appeal would be willing to go to the Court of Appeal and express their feeling or their position to the judge on the next level up. Otherwise, it's just futile. Anyhow, that's my story, and I'm gonna stick by it. Thank you.
Is there, you have a motion, or you going to let it?
I moved to pass 8.1.
I mean, are you going to, so it just automatically goes to the third reading without any motion? If you want to have
Sure.
discussion, then you will need to suspend.
If this is not gonna go ahead and pass tonight, it'll go on to the third reading either way.
Okay, so what's your pleasure? The discussion happens if you move it to third.
I move to suspend the rules and move it on to the third reading.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor? Those opposed? Okay, so now, discussion. JP Madison. Oh, let's read it, and then we'll go to JP Madison.
This is an ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit.
JP Madison.
So I was one of the ones who voted against this last time because I just needed more information, and I did my due diligence. And while I disagree with J.P. Pond that we should sometimes disagree with the judiciary, that's why we have 3 branches of government. If I had to accept everything a judge said, I would pretty much be out of a job as a lawyer. So there are certainly times to appeal, and there are times not to appeal. And in my due diligence, it was very regretful that I decided that it would be a waste of time and money to appeal this. The record was pretty clear that the quorum court simply just did not offer enough information in the affidavits we submitted. So we submitted affidavits, but they pretty much just said, I voted against this because of drainage, and the court found that to be inadequate. So I'm very sorry to the residents that won at the quorum court and then had to lose on appeal. I'm going to abstain from the vote because I'm just very conflicted with how the process was handled, but I'm certainly not recommending that we spend thousands of dollars to pursue an appeal that would be a waste of money. So, thank you, Judge.
Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments?
There's not been a motion to pass yet. We need a motion.
Yeah, I thought that was J.P. Pond. Who did the second? J.B. Harbison?
No, we've got to have a motion to pass.
Oh, okay, J.P. Pond.
Move to pass.
That second? Second. We got a first and a second, J.P. Madison, to approve the, ratify the CUP. Oh, Jenkins, I'm sorry. No, that's right, you just abstained. Any discussions? All right. Public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty, will you do the roll?
Sue Madison. Yes. Willie Lemming. Yes. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Abstain.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
And the ratification of the CUP, 8.1 passes. The next item of
Mr.
unfinished.
Judge. Excuse
J.P.
me.
Madison, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I'd like to get some instruction from our county attorney so how we could handle these better next time so that the court doesn't rule simply because we didn't provide enough information or enough argument. Because I think it's regrettable that this turned out the way it did in court simply because too many of us were silent and didn't speak about the way we voted. So if we could get some instruction on how better to do that, I think it would mean a lot to applicants. Thank you.
JP, item 9, JP Harbison, will you, well, Council, will you go ahead and read item 9, and then we'll have JP Harbison introduce it.
This is an ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit denied by the Planning and Zoning Board. It's on this.
Okay, we have,
Mike.
this is on, this is on second reading, and I move that we, do I suspend the rules now? I want to suspend the rules and put it on third reading.
Second.
We have a first and a second to suspend the rule. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Okay, I move that we pass 9.1.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve the conditional use permit, and second by J.P. Pond. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Any public comments? All right, go ahead, Ms. Patty. Oh, go ahead and read that one again, I'm sorry.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit denied by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Smith Towing and Recovery Impound.
Yes.
Okay.
Miss J.P. Patty. Patty, will you call the roll?
I'm sorry, I had a question.
Oh, well, hold on, hold tight. J.P. Madison.
I understood that there were conditions imposed on it.
There were.
There's not any in the ordinance.
It's what
It was in the motion.
Well, there's an ordinance that gives no conditions. So,
It's in Article 1.
Does the planning, with the planning board, the planning department laid out?
I thought there were more than that, but
Well, there was a whole list of them.
well, there's
Right.
just one listed.
What was that? by the
So-
planning?
By the planning.
With the conditions recommended by the planning department on Article 1?
Let's see.
They aren't attached to this.
That's
No.
all passed.
Yeah, it's a time.
It seems like it just says in the addition of a privacy netting. So, I mean, I don't know if I would not want to have it spelled out in the ordinance what they were.
It's in the minutes.
Right. Yeah, but then, that's what she's saying. And the requirement that the applicant add, so it's two things, with the conditions are recommended by the planning board and, J.P. Madison, are you following me? With the con-
Right, but I mean, we don't know what that is. We don't know what document that refers to, or, I mean, if we're passing an ordinance that is imposing legal conditions, I think there ought to be some certainty in what those conditions are, and simply saying what was conditions recommended by the planning department without specifying a document or a date or a meeting or something, I think certainly leaves some debate as to what is being required. So, I mean, I think for the benefit of all involved, there should be some specification as to what those requirements are. And I understood after the last meeting that those would be, because I felt like we were trying to incorporate them as we were doing it at the last meeting.
J.P. Pond.
I believe maybe Ms. Natterthong could enlighten us on those conditions. That might be possible.
Well,
She's reading something right now.
Oh. So when we passed it out of, I'm trying to think what committee it was. Well, it was Quorum Court. We had those. Can we make those available? Will that suffice, or just attach it to when the ordinance gets produced or published? Okay, we'll do that.
I don't think we can pass something that we don't know what it is. We can't add something later.
We had it, you guys voted. Yeah.
If you're asking me to vote on written conditions, then I need that writing in front of us. I'm sorry. I can't vote on something that's going to be added later.
Crouch, you wouldn't have those on you, would you?
Not on me, sir.
Okay.
First thing in the morning.
Yeah, that's that. Okay.
I have them in email. Can I email them to somebody? No.
Or I can make you drive, and I could probably be back before you close the meeting.
No. Chief.
Yeah, Chief.
At the, Chief Gales, at the past quorum court meeting, the conditions were brought forward at that time and included in that meeting. The fencing was added by the quorum court, and I don't remember which, I believe it was J.P. Sam Duncan added the requirement that on the fencing. So that's the reason the two verbiage is that way.
Okay.
But in the previous meeting, the conditions were brought out.
Yeah, thank you. JP,
I
Counsel.
will say just one thing, and I understand, and we can certainly attach these. This court has historically voted to ratify conditional use permits, and even when there aren't any controversy surrounding it, there are always, I would say, I don't know of a single time, Nathan could tell me if I'm wrong, I'd say at least 99% of the time, there are conditions. We've never attached those to the ordinances. We've just passed and ratified with the understanding or knowledge that those conditions are also have been set and established because that's what's been passed on by the planning board. So if that helps, I'm just making that known to you.
JP Pye.
Yes, I'll ask this. Is it, because if we add those to this, does it not cost more to publish
It would.
the
Absolutely.
ordinance?
Absolutely.
And would kill another tree, right? We've already got it written down someplace. Anyway, thank you.
JP
It
Madison.
should be in their packet.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. Just because there's developed some controversy here or some questions, I voted no before, and I just want to restate that I will vote no again, and my reasons are the same as before. They were operating without having sought the proper permits to begin with, and I'm greatly bothered by that kind of action. Thank you.
Okay. JP Harbison has put a motion to go ahead and we had a second.
Let's go on and suspend the rules and pass this ordinance. We have the qualifications and the modifications that they are to make to their compound. They're in writing. We hashed these out at the last meeting. Everybody should know what they are. And I just don't understand, just because they're not written down here, because it definitely says in here, the planning board and zoning ratification. So anyway, I move that we pass this ordinance tonight and let these people get their business started.
Second.
Well,
Yeah, JP Madison.
I think my concern is that it seemed like we were sort of adding conditions on at the last meeting. The other thing that concerns me is planning withheld a recommendation on this. And so if they withheld a recommendation, how do we adopt their conditions? So that's why this is unique, and we're being asked to vote on something that I don't know what it is. So that bothers me. If there were some clarification as to what those conditions were.
It's right here.
But
JP Jenkins, you want to share those?
Well, I just pulled up the agenda. From the last quorum court. Let's see where it is.
Well, let Carl.
Where does it show conditions?
What's your comment, JP Harbison, while she's looking that up?
While she's looking that up, could Carl come forward and speak while she's looking that up?
Chief?
CETA has the conditions that were presented, and she can read those conditions verbally and enter into the minutes, if that would
And that's what
please the
JP,
court.
that's what JP Jenkins is doing.
Right.
Thanks.
So it goes through and it shows environmental conditions, signing, lighting, screening conditions, addressing conditions, utility conditions, planning conditions. Which category are we looking for?
Well, all of them. All of them. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
there's pages.
sure.
There's like 6 under signage, lighting, screening. There's 6 under planning conditions,
And so that's what you guys will be voting on.
additional standard conditions. Says a landscaping plan must be submitted and approved. I mean, there's a lot.
J.P. Harbison?
You know, my position is that we really discussed this all, and what was finally adopted was the planning board's recommendations for this CUP. And there was one additional issue, that black netting be used around the compound. You
Okay.
know, so we have a record of all this.
All right, so we had a motion and a second to suspend the rules and move to third reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right,
We have a motion to pass.
and we got a motion now to pass. Any other discussion? All right, public comments? Public comments. All right, Ms. Patty.
Sue Madison. No. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Yes. Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
No.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 9.1 passes. Next item of business is ordinance appropriating $100,000 from unappropriated. Council, will you read that, and then J.P. Harbison, will you introduce it?
Okay,
He's reading it. He's reading the title.
okay.
An ordinance appropriating $100,000 from unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the other professional services line item in the Quorum Court budget for 2019.
Okay, this ordinance deals with the study of the Washington County judicial system. And some people have talked with the different entities and said that this was not quite enough. So if this is on second reading, so if we amend it, it goes back to first reading, but we can suspend the rules and move it on if somebody wants to amend this. So I'm not going to make a recommendation. I'm just going to move that we go on and pass this as is, and if we need additional money, that that you, Judge Wood, come back and say, you know, we need another $20,000 or whatever it is. So I think this is important. I think it's going to help us solve some problems. I know there's other people that disagree with this, but I think we owe it to the people of Washington County to move forward and do something about the overcrowding at the jail. So I move passage of 10.1.
Well, this is only second reading, so it'll go on next month for the third.
I'm going to ask for the suspension, suspend the rules and read it on third reading.
All right, so it's a motion to suspend the rules, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, so the rules has been suspended, and now your motion is to read again, Counselor?
An ordinance appropriating $100,000 from unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the other professional services line item in the Quorum Court budget for 2019.
Okay, I move that we pass 10.1.
We got a motion and a second by J.P. Ecke. Any other discussion? J.P. Pond and then J.P. Bowman.
Mr. Chair, I'll ask you, as I have asked some other elected officials, at any time during any of the committee meetings or this quorum court meeting, have you expressed the need for this study?
I think the study will just provide some additional data for you guys to walk through your jail committee as well as the public as we work through what do we do with our jail. So I don't see it as a hurt or a harm.
But then are you expressing the need for the study?
Yes.
Okay. That's the first time that we've had any elected official express the need for the study. There, other than part-time elected officials, quorum court members that, but not the sheriff or his staff who have hundreds of years of experience and study in these matters. Not any of the circuit judges. No one else has expressed the need. And otherwise, I'd be out of line to vote for it. So, thank you.
All right. That was J.P. Bowman and then
I
J.P.
want to be
Dickens.
sure I understand which study we're talking about.
A study of the criminal justice system.
The criminal justice, you're talking about bringing in the crew, whether they're going to do a year's or 6 months study? Is that the one?
Based on the criterion set, yes.
That's the one they're talking about?
Yes.
Okay,
J.P. Dickens?
thank you.
Judge, I just wanted to try to reframe this. I think sometimes this gets attacked. This is, us passing this to ask for this study, it's not a rebuke on any one department. It's
That's
not a
correct.
rebuke on the justice system. It's not necessarily even saying, I'm in support of this, but I'm not saying that I am displeased by anyone's work. What I'm hoping this system shows us, or what this study shows us, is how our system works as a whole, each piece together, how those integrate, how we can do better, and how we can move into the future with an increasing population and some things that we can implement.
Yes, sir.
That's my goal of this study, and I want everyone, the public included, to understand that. This is not a rebuke on anyone. Thank you.
That's correct. J.P. Bowman?
You know, I think to go ahead and pass this without some definition about what the study's going to be, the length of the study, who's going to do it, and so forth, is really out of order. We don't have a clue. You know, I've said I would be supportive of this if we put a time limit on it. But if we go ahead and continue this thing, our jail is a mess. You know, I want to tell you right now, I'm going to ask every one of the quorum court members to be down at the sheriff's breakfast at 7 o'clock on a week from Friday and talk to the people down there, hear from the enforcement people, hear what's going on in our county at the ground level. I think you'll be amazed what you'll learn. So I'm asking you to do that. I'm going to oppose this time because we don't have enough definition about what's going on.
All right. J.B. Harbison and then J.P. Jenkins.
I want to echo Patrick Deacon's concerns. This is a tool. This is not just a study of the jail. Sheriff Helder really doesn't have control over the number of people in the jail. We just want to know if we can streamline the process. And it's, you know, we've had some people to say that to vote against it before we have anybody hired or interviewed. I mean, there's got to be an interview process. This is, as he stated, this is not a black mark against anyone. It's going to give us tools to make good, concrete decisions. Do we need to go on and spend, you know, $38 million on the jail? Do we need to add additional people to the prosecutor's office? Do we need, there are thousands of points out there that we could tweak and make the system better. If we have a professional, unbiased, that can come in and make an unbiased decision and tell us how we can improve things. You know, this is all that I'm asking. It's all of the, you know, the people. I just do not, this is not against Sheriff Helder. Actually, I wish we would just separate this from the overcrowding at the jail because it's two different issues. And we need information. We are spending money, we're spending almost $1 million a year at the jail, but we need to know why we have so many people in jail. Why do we have 400 pre-trial people in jail? These people haven't been charged with anything. Are there, you know, can they come in and say, we can provide services? Now, I heard the comment made that the county could become a halfway house. That's not what this is about at all. This is to improve the efficiency and give us some information of where we need to put our dollars to make it more efficient. That's the whole point. Where do we need to put our dollars to improve the efficiency of the judicial system? Thank you.
J.P. Jenkins. J.P. Jenkins.
Thank you, Judge. I just want to say, any solid, well-informed decision is researched. We need to use research to make a well-informed decision, and this is the way to go. I really feel that. And the further that we kick this can down the road, nothing's going to be resolved. We've got to make a decision, and we've got to do it today, and I will vote yes for this. Thank you.
Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I just want to thank the members of the public who've been so vocal about this issue. It has really confirmed my belief that this is the right thing to do. We have heard overwhelmingly, maybe with one or two exceptions, but overwhelmingly we have heard from the public that we want to spend tax dollars to get this study done, to find out, do we need a jail expansion, or do we need to do other fixes in the system that are outside of the control of the sheriff's office? But I just really admire the work of the public in really researching these issues and getting to the bottom of them, and the number of hours that have been devoted just by citizens in their own time to researching these issues and getting involved and reaching out. It gives me hope that people care about their government or are invested in their government and the decisions we make. So I will be supporting this, and thanks to the members of the public for being engaged on it.
And J.P. Ecke and then J.P. Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. You will have full authority over the contract and who gets the contract.
Right.
And the criterion of which.
That's correct.
So you're going to be in
Right.
charge of that. I have
That's correct.
confidence that then this money will be well spent. Thank you, sir.
J.P. Duncan, thank you.
And there's two things keeping me up at night right now. One is my 6-month-old daughter, and the other one is our overcrowding issue at the jail and the opportunities we have in our criminal justice system. So I voted against this last month, and as I've lost sleep and thought about this, prayed about this, is something I will be voting for. One piece I do want to ensure, and I was going to make an amendment, but because there's a motion on the floor, and knowing Judge Wood, your character, and the decision you'll make as you hire someone, I just want to ensure that reentry is studied as part of the total look. Right now, the recidivism rate in Arkansas is 52%. So 52% of the jail population are going back to jail within 3 years of being released from jail. So we've got an issue with individuals going back to jail. It's the same people. Repeat business is good, okay? So that's something I want to make sure is included in the study as we look at reentry programs. So the returning home was a perfect example of a reentry program that appears to be working. Now, I don't have data to support that, but as we heard the presentation, it seems working. So that would be my one bullet point. Thank you.
Public comments. Public comments. J.P. Dennis. J.P. Dennis.
Hi, can I approach to pass out a handout?
Say who
I'm
you
sorry,
are.
Sarah Moore, Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Okay.
Apologize. I was just going to let you guys go ahead and read this if that's okay. I know that not everyone can quickly get to their emails, and I know that there was an article that was shared with you, so I just wanted to make sure I printed it and brought it to you. I know we try not to kill trees, but in the essence of wanting you, before you voted, to be able to see our neighbors to the west of us in Oklahoma County with Oklahoma City, as well as Tulsa, have recently done assessments. Oklahoma City in particular did theirs with the Vera Institute of Justice, who we've talked to 6 people so far within their team on varying levels and degrees of things that they do, between creating data dashboards for us at no cost, at doing full-blown studies. This is their Oklahoma City one. But when you look at at the article that's in front of you, basically it lets you know that they're at the lowest population in the jail that they'd ever had after they did the study, and they put steps in place after the study. One of those was putting a criminal justice coordinating committee together in place. They actually hired someone full-time that actually manages it and makes sure that, you know, everything stays kind of moving forward and kind of gets everyone together. I think that's something we should probably consider as we move forward, because I know we've talked a lot about what that committee could potentially look like. The biggest aha to me and the biggest nugget out of this is the fact that they're able to drop their jail populations by 30% when they start looking at alternatives from these studies. I have the full printed Oklahoma City and the full printed Tulsa. I apologize, this is a huge thing to print, but I can actually email it to you. There was a comment that somebody had recently made to me about, we don't want to have the crime rates that other areas have, and I agree. Places, you know, like the Little Rock area have different crime rates than we do. Pulaski County, they're doing a study. Oklahoma City has different crime rates than us, you know, they're doing a study. So I feel like there are a lot of, you know, neighboring areas that, you know, they don't want to have high crime rates, so they're studying it. So I'm hopeful, and I've heard some support here tonight, but I really hope that you will support doing the study. There are some incredible organizations out there to be considered that we've talked to, and they are very sensitive to the time that Mr. J.P. Bowman that you mentioned, the timeliness. They understand that. Luckily, a lot of these folks have been doing this in other jurisdictions, and so because they're very familiar with the issues that are across the nation and they've been doing this, I feel like there can be some expediency as well. There's some things that they can come and touch base with us from time to time and make sure that we kind of get on track. And just hand in hand with some of the other things we can start doing, like with the ombudsman, we'll start, I feel like we're really going to start chipping away at the population that we have today.
Okay.
I'm excited about what the study could do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good evening. I didn't plan on coming and making a public comment. I was going to sit back there and stay as quiet as possible, but
Who are you?
Couldn't help it.
Who are you?
Robert Dennis. I live in Farmington, Arkansas. I'll kill two birds with one stone with my comment. I was coming to talk about the Equalization Board and the taxes, because I'm one of those 4,600 that had an excessive change in my tax rate. So I'm glad to hear that we have plenty of money, and this will be my argument back to Russell Hill. If we got an extra $100,000 to just hire someone to study what we should study, then you don't need my extra 46% that you are taking from me. So, Russell, that'll be my first argument. You got this kind of money, you don't need more money. So I'm speaking for the other people like myself. You talked about our money and what we were going to do. Well, have you asked us what we want to do? And I'm telling you, I don't want to spend $100,000 on something like this young lady had just mentioned has already been studied and figured out. All you got to do is ask the experts in another community. You don't need to do a complete new study. Get after it and research it and find out what their answers are. Find someone who's already been successful and ask them. You got one of the best sheriffs in the nation right here, and if he's advising you against that or advising you of what's going on, I guarantee you one thing, it's right. He's right on what he's wanting to say. So that's my opinion. So if you got plenty of money, spend it, but if you don't ask for me anymore, because I'm not giving it. I'm going to fight you on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments.
Beth Coger, Fayetteville. I'd just like to say first, in response to that the study will include not just the jail. The study needs to cover, like J.P. Duncan said, it needs to cover reentry, it needs to cover the judicial, probation, every aspect of the government, of our county government, not just the jail. But I want to say, as for tonight, that I've given you lots of facts and data, And I've given you examples of successful criminal justice reform efforts in other jurisdictions. If you like, I can give you more. But I'd like you to consider that here in Washington County, I believe we can be even more successful because Washington County is a special place. We have the right people, we have the right resources, and we have a community that tells me, and I've been out in the community a lot about this, that they want to see criminal justice reform. They want to see us do something different. So tonight, I think we're at a crossroads. We can either do the same thing, go down the familiar path, which is undoubtedly an easy path to go down, or we can be bold and move forward in a new direction. And I'd like to see us be bold and move forward in a new direction. And so when you vote tonight, I ask that you not be guided by fear of the unknown, but that you be bold to move Washington County forward, and that we start that by hiring outside independent criminal justice reform experts to conduct a feasibility study. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments.
Brandy Weaver, I'm from Prairie Grove, Arkansas. I also want to thank everybody for all of the research that they have done and you guys for listening. I do think that the study is a good step because it does study the entire criminal justice system, not just the jail. So therefore, with that study, they may be able to find some things that we can do that we haven't thought of yet that can make our system better for every resident within Washington County. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments.
Gladys Tiffany, Fayetteville. I really do want to thank the justices, especially Justice Harbison. I really have watched you take hold of this issue and educate yourselves in many ways, and it's been an exciting thing to watch. And I'm very, very grateful to the leadership you're showing by exploring all these areas. I'm also really grateful to Justice Madison, who pointed out that the value that the public did bring to the exploration, and remind the court that there's all these options for very engaged people in our community who want to participate in their government, and the option for this advisory panel, whatever that ended up being, has an opportunity to really engage some of those people, and I think taking advantage of that would be so much to our benefit. But thank you, every one of you. No matter how you vote, I'm really grateful to you.
Thank you. Public comments.
Hi, I'm Annie Langston from Fayetteville, and I, again, thank you all. I know this has been a terrible thorn in y'all's side, but as a property owner and a taxpayer, I would plead with y'all to spend $100,000 this year so that we quit spending $1 million plus every year to support a jail that we are causing to be overcrowded. I would say that by not addressing the underlying problems, we are putting a big burden on Sheriff Helder. So that is my comment, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, Ms. Langston. Public comments. All right, Ms. Patty? Did you have something, J.P. Harbison? It was,
Vote on the second reading. I want to suspend the rules.
we already did all that. Go ahead, roll call, Ms. Patty.
Sue Madison. Yes. Willie Lemming.
No.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
No.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Patrick Deakins.
Wait a minute.
Oh, Judith
Judith's
is
here.
here. Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Sorry. Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
So that item passes. Item 10.1 passes. Item 11. Item 11,
Mr. Judge,
J.P. Madison.
since this is our first attempt using a consent agenda, would you let the county
He
attorney
is.
tell
That's
us
what he's about to
procedure?
do. He's about to.
So now that we're to the consent agenda, the way that we'll handle this is, these are all fortunately appropriation ordinances. Typically, they will be, so it will only, technically has to have one reading, so I will read each of these. And then the judge will open it up for discussion, if there is any, and open it up for public comment. And then the quorum court will vote on these together as a block. And so however you vote, we'll go for all three of these. So it'll be one vote, one discussion, that sort of thing. And with that, I'll read these ordinances. The first ordinance is an ordinance recognizing and appropriating $2,550 to the Crisis Stabilization Unit for 2019. The second ordinance is an ordinance recognizing and appropriating revenue in the amount of $798,175.97 in the Road Department budget for 2019. And the third ordinance is an ordinance anticipating, recognizing, and appropriating additional revenues in the amount of $112,053.54 in the sheriff's budget for 2019.
Okay, I move passage of these three items on the consent agenda. The first one dealt with the crisis stabilization fund donations. The second one was FEMA money that was transferred back into line items in the road department. And the third one was money that the sheriff's department had collected that goes in general fund and was put back in his budget.
We got a motion, second by J.P. Madison. J.P. Jenkins. Discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
All right, the consent agenda passes. Item 12, J.P. Madison.
Mr. Lister, I didn't think that the line item transfers had to come to the quorum court. I thought they just had to be approved by the Finance and Budget Committee. Is that right? Am I?
It came out of finance, but it did come out of finance, but it
But
did.
I think they just have to be approved by the committee. I don't think they have to be approved by the quorum court. I just wanted to make sure we were not doing
Let me
extra
check
work.
that, because it depends on if your budget control says it has to be approved by the quorum court.
Oh.
And it may say that.
Okay.
It does.
Well, we can go ahead and deal with it
I'll
tonight. I
look
just
at it.
think we could make it easier if we didn't have to do it in the future, because that's what I remember. I don't know.
So J.P. Harper, you want to read that one?
Okay,
We'll just do this one tonight.
12.1, line item transfer for the planning board. It was put in line item 4005, and it should have been put in 4003, so I move that we pass this line item transfer.
There's a motion and a second to pass the line item transfer. All in favor? Those opposed? All right, that one passes. The line item transfer, item 13. Counsel, will you go ahead and read the ordinance, and then J.P. Harbison, you can introduce it.
An ordinance appropriating $15,000 from unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the jail budget for 2019.
All right, this ordinance deals with the ombudsman person that we want to hire to go and help Sheriff Helder in the jail identify people that can be released. And the ombudsman will be doing other activities also. This is for 3 months. Our person, Mr. Edelman, is not going to be back in the state until September. So since we're doing a trial run of this, or this is just seed money, he has asked for his 90 days to start when he gets back and starts the project. Do we need an amendment to that to do that, or can we just do it
You can
if
just
it
do it and just
passes?
sit until he
Okay.
comes. So we got
Mr. Chairman,
J.P. Madison.
I had asked this, thank you, Mr. Judge, I'd asked this question in committee. since this ordinance didn't come out of committee with a recommendation, it wasn't heard by committee, I believe we have to suspend the rules that we passed and allow us to consider it. And I'd like to make that motion if the attorney says that is correct.
That's fine.
All right, I get what you're saying, and technically, we went ahead and added it, and you already suspended and approved the agenda with this added as amended.
So that
And so I
counts.
know it does, it's kind of murky. Certainly, if you want to just, to clarify, say that you're right, because this ordinance wasn't technically in front of you.
Was that at the, I can't remember, the jail?
Because we
Finance
passed
and
an
budget,
ordinance back
okay.
at the beginning of the year that
Yes,
ordinances
that's
had to
right.
go to a committee first.
That's correct.
And if they didn't, we had to suspend the rules.
Okay.
So just to keep us
All right.
clean, I want to suspend the rules and allow this.
All right, so we got a motion to suspend the rules to bring this in. We got a second by J.P. Harbison.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. And now, J.P. Johnson.
I just want to clarify, on the top of this ordinance, it says that it was passed by the Jail and Law Committee to Finance and Budget. That is incorrect.
Okay.
The motion was made at the Jail and Law Committee to draft the ordinance. That was the only thing that was passed at Jail and Law.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll make that correction. So what we have done this year, just for the purpose of transparency and help for the public and for us when we go back to look at ordinances, is we have started including kind of the history of an ordinance, what committee it went to, where it went.
Okay.
That's technically not really part of your ordinance, but we will start, so it doesn't need to, this doesn't need to be amended, is what I'm getting at. We will go back and clarify that at the top for the.
It's a trail for us. It's a trail for us, for everybody. J.P. Ecke?
If you could, please, Mr. Judge, if the county attorney could, point of clarification, if this passed out of jail and law enforcement, it didn't go to budget and finance, it did go to budget and
It did go
finance?
to
It did not-
budget and finance.
It didn't come out
yes.
of jail.
But it came out and went to,
That's
and it
correct.
went.
That's
I
correct.
mean, I added the item to the agenda because we didn't have an ordinance.
And now we have the ordinance.
And it was passed, and the motion was made by J.P. Madison to have, try to have it written by Friday, and Brian Lester did. So,
Okay. J.P. Madison?
I think,
This- She'll clarify, because again, it didn't come out of jail, it came out of
well,
finance and
No, I
budget.
understand that, and all of that makes sense. I remember, thank you for clarifying that. What I have a problem with is there was so much redundancy in what this study was going to do. Because the sheriff's office already does a lot of this that he was proposing. He also said this is just a draft of what I
That's right.
am proposing. It wasn't a final proposal of what he was going to do. And I still feel uncomfortable with appropriating this money. Now, if we're going to have the study done, then that is a contract that goes to the judge and he has to review it. It doesn't necessarily mean that Professor Edelman is going to be hired for this particular position because it has to be open to the public. I have a problem because he said this is just a draft and there wasn't a final proposal. And the guidelines, he says, my principal guideline is to keep poor people from not making bail,
no, for making bail.
for making bail. I thought that was discriminatory. You're discriminating against people. And I say that because there is a community action group that helps, does community service. I met these 3 young men, and the discussion was, are you going to go bail her out? No, I'm tired of bailing her out. This is the 3rd time. She can just sit in jail for all I care. and they were busy doing community service. Anyway, I'm not supporting this because I don't feel that we have the final, what he was proposing, and a lot of this is being duplicated. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Ecke. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I was just going to comment on the procedure initially. I think we did as much as we could do to pass this out of committee without actually having a draft ordinance, because Chairman Johnson is correct that the concept of the ombudsman passed out of his committee and onto Finance and Budget, and then in an effort to get it on the agenda for tonight, I made a motion to have Mr. Lester draft an ordinance that could be included in our agenda packet so it could go out to the public. And then I asked for $15,000 to be designated so that at least we would have the funding to get started. And that's all this does, is sets aside a portion of the funds to get started. The details of the ombudsman program remain to be worked out between the sheriff and the judge and Professor Edelman. And I will say that it's my understanding that the sheriff was supportive of hiring Professor Edelman, and in fact was insistent that he be the one to do it. So I have a hard time distrusting Sheriff Helder in thinking that we would be paying someone to do something that we're already doing. So I think that all we're doing is getting the funding going. We're not passing the ombudsman proposal in any way. So I think if we're going to put our money where our mouth is and get this show on the road about trying to figure out alternatives in our criminal justice system, we should fund this and let the judge and the sheriff do the rest of the work. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Madison, and that's correct. You guys have handled the money, and so that's all this is doing, is appropriating the $15,000 for me to go and the sheriff to go and start looking at this ombudsman. Same thing with the $100,000. You guys appropriate the money, and then we go and do the work of it. I will share that both the ombudsman shared with you as he was talking that it's going to be really difficult for him. We can have the money, we can set this all up, but in his mind, he said, if I don't have the entire criminal justice system behind him, i.e., I think he has the sheriff's support, but again, if the judges don't say, yes, I'll take your recommendation, then he's not really sold on doing this, because all he can do is make a recommendation, and really that's what the study's going to do. All the study is going to bring is a recommendation. Will the prosecutor, will the public defender, will the judges say, yes, because of this data from the study, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. So, yes, the appropriations is what you guys work on and do. You got the $100,000 for the study. We're talking about the $15,000 for the ombudsman, and then after that, that's where your full-time elected gets into start putting the pieces together for that. So, J.P. Duncan and then J.P. Bowman.
My previous comment was I was for this if we limited it a 90-day review to see that there is an ROI on this. The good thing is it's $15,000, that's 90 days. So I think that takes care of it. I just wanted to clarify and have that out there again, that we need to review this after 90 days and make sure that we're getting our money's worth.
Sure. J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, the thing you made a point about, the judges have to accept, they do not have to accept, even the recommendations of this committee that we're talking about spending $200,000 to do. And we got to realize that they're not going to be bound by what this committee study shows.
You meant 100,000?
I'm sorry? I know. That's a front side.
Oh.
But we've already been told it'll probably cost at least $175 to get this complete study done. Ms. Coger's done a lot of study on this thing. That's the number she used, and that's the number I'm repeating. So we're going to talk about that. In addition, we're talking about the ombudsman and another $65,000 there. So we're already up to 2.5 on doing studies about the jail system. And the judges don't have to abide by whatever recommendation they receive. Thank you.
J.P. Jenkins and J.P. Harbison.
I had pulled up the draft proposal, and at the bottom of the draft proposal, it says this proposal is entered to jointly by Professor Attorney Stanley E. Adelman and by Washington County Sheriff Timothy Helder, whose signatures appear below. So to me, I'm seeing this fully as, if it has Sheriff Helder's name on it, then it's obviously this has Sheriff Helder's support, and I will support Sheriff Helder in his decisions.
J.P. Harbison.
What J.P. Bowman said is correct, but you know what? I think our community, our county, our constituents want us to do something, and we're all elected officials. They're going to be watching to see what we are doing, and they are watching to see if this money is going to be used wisely. So, you know, I think any really good recommendations or ideas, if someone just said, no, I'm not going to do that, you know, I think there's public pressure out there. We want reform in the criminal justice system. And I think this is a first step toward that. Thank you.
Any other comments? We're on public comments.
We need a motion.
Oh, who brought that one
There
up?
was an initial motion. There was an initial motion by J.P. Harbison, but then we went ahead and moved to suspend to add. So we need to have we need a renewed motion to pass.
Suspend the rules.
We voted on, yeah.
I recommend that we pass 12.1.
Okay.
We got a 12.1 or 13.1? 13.1. Yeah. All right, say it again.
13.1.
All right. So we got a motion to pass 13.1.
Second.
A second by, which was J.B. Madison. Public comments? Public comments?
Beth Koger, Fayetteville. I just want to point out that actually what Sheriff Helter and the Sheriff's Office does, what they do now when they release someone, they have a list from Prosecutor Mac Durrett that they have to go down. It meets certain criteria, and if the person fits in that, well, then they send the name on to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor says either yes or no. That's it. That's all the sheriff can do. But the ombudsman will, not only will, he's going to meet individually with these people, he's going to do a lot more than just say they need to be released. He's going to meet with them individually. He's going to assess whether or not they'd be a risk to the community. He's going to assess if they are a good candidate to be released. And he's not only going to do that, he's going to, if they need drug and alcohol treatment, he's going to connect them with that treatment. If they're homeless, they don't have a place to sleep, he's going to connect them, help them find get a roof over their head. If they have no job, or if they've lost their job, he's going to help them write resumes and help them find employment. And if other services that they need, he's going to help them connect. He's not just going to turn these people out on the street. And talking about discrimination, you know, it might be discrimination if we have people sitting in jail because they don't have money to pay a $1,500 bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments? Ms. Patty?
Sue Madison. Yes. Willie Lemming. No. Ann Harbison. Yes. Butch Pond. Yes. Lance Johnson. No. Susan Cunningham. Yes. Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Yes. Patrick Deakins. Yes. Lisa Ecke. Yes. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
All right, so item 13.1 passes. Before we go into committee reports, we did not,
That's that other resolution that Ann had.
oh, we had one more of the resolution. What was, okay. Perfect, perfect timing.
For the Winslow community that we need to pass tonight, it's a $750 grant. This grant needs to be in by August the 7th, so we need to go on and pass this so that the county, Sharon Lloyd, can get that grant in. They have recommendations from Representative Ballinger and Representative Bruce Coleman.
All right, Council, will you read
I
the?
move that we pass this resolution.
Second.
We got a first and a second. You want to read the resolution before?
A resolution authorizing the county judge of Washington County to apply for a grant on behalf of the Winslow Community Center Association.
All right, you heard the question. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, the resolution passes. Yeah, I'm about to do that one. You want to do it?
Yeah.
All right, so J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. The judge had previously read the resolution in recognition of Jeannie Mac's service, but we didn't actually vote on it. So I regretfully move to pass the resolution
That makes two of us.
honoring Jeannie for her tremendous service to the county. I will miss you, but I'm going to come see you in Fort Smith.
We Got a motion to pass the resolution and the retiring of our own Jenny Mack, and the second by J.P. Madison. Let's do a roll call, make sure we get everybody's name on. Ms. Patty?
Yeah.
Oh, you ready to say?
All right. Sue Madison?
Yes.
Willie Lemming?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Lance Johnson? Yes. Susan Cunningham?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Judith Yanez? Patrick Deacons? Lisa Ecke? Sam Duncan?
Yes.
Shonda Washington?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins?
Yes.
I really didn't want you to go, and Madison ended up saying, hey, did you read the resolution? That was on purpose, I didn't want you to. Yeah, that's on first reading, how about that? That's on first, you got 90 days now, come back for 90 days. Committee reports, county services.
No reading, no services.
All right. J.P. Harbison, finance and budget.
Okay, finance and budget met. We had our report from Bobby Hill, the treasurer, and our report from Nelson Driver, our risk management, our health insurance is in good shape. Shannon Worthen, we are on target with our budgets. We had 3 ordinances that were on the consent agenda, and we've already done those tonight. We tabled an ordinance that was put in the quorum court line item for money for the bonds with the Smith LLC. That Smith was
Johnson.
postponed. And then we sent the ombudsman, and we just did that. And that was, we discussed the budget process
Oh, yeah.
of how and everybody wants to get started. So Mr. Worthen's already sent out the information to all of the department heads, and we should have this information by the 1st of August. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Harbison. Personnel.
We did not meet for lack of agenda. There was no personnel committee meeting. Thank you.
All right. J.B. Johnson, law enforcement, jails, law enforcement.
Jail and Law Enforcement Committee met, the reports in the packet.
All righty, excellent. One final motion?
No, I have,
We got a motion to adjourn, J.P. Madison.
I wanted to ask if all the participants in the Crisis Stabilization Unit have signed contracts with the county. I had understood there were a couple of issues outstanding there, and I wanted you to bring us up to date on that.
So we had a press conference today regarding the Crisis Stabilization Unit. And you're probably aware of that. And that was to make sure that the misinformation out there that the Crisis Stabilization was not open and that nobody had been in there. We made sure that, and we had Ozark guidance there as well. Ozark guidance assured them that the place was open and that they had clients, and that we have had MOUs. We just sent out, and you guys will see, did they get a copy of that one, the MOU? Probably not. But we sent out a new MOU today to the mayors and the sheriffs, or chiefs of police. Go out to the chiefs, they'll go out tomorrow to the chiefs of police regarding that. We had some cities who still did not want to participate because of the daily rate. Craighead County will be opening up sometime in late September. They're not going to charge a rate. And so visiting with the governor's office and legislators who are saying that they're going to push to continue funding, that we're not going to charge a daily rate until January 20th. Some cities are going to be surprised because they were ready to pay it. Springdale and Benton County and Madison County. It was just a couple of cities that really was not interested in paying the daily rate. So now all that's been put aside. We'll have the daily rate start in January, and that's when the $40 day rate will go. But this crisis stabilization is open. Law enforcement officers, again, with 500 people in the state trained, half of them have been trained up in this region. And so I think the mayors really want, and chief of police want their officers to go ahead and use that, which is a great tool to give them and help our citizens with mental health.
Well, who's going to cover the daily rate that they're not paying?
It'll be based on, that's what
The quorum court's going to cover that?
well, we don't know. That's why we were putting in a daily rate, because no one's been open over a year except for now Pulaski and Sebastian. Sebastian was looking at $5, and they said they woefully shot way under. Pulaski shot at $50, and we didn't think we need to be that high. But no one's been around. This is all new, and so no one knows. We do know what the grant is. The grant is not to do it all. It's just to provide operations, the $1.6 million. So the county is going to be doing some
So Washington
maintenance and
County
all
is
that.
going to cover it for everybody.
Maintenance until we find out. We won't know what the numbers are until we get the numbers, but by January, we'll have some rough data of what that would look like.
Do we have a commitment from the governor's office that they're going to come up with some funding?
That's what they shared with us.
Okay, did you get that in
All
writing?
right.
Okay.
J.P. Bowman?
Thank you, Mr. Judge. You know, I want to appeal to the quorum court members. You know, I've been going to the jail, to the breakfast at the sheriff's, at the jail on a monthly basis, the last Friday of each month, 7 o'clock. There's all kinds of enforcement people there. Many times, the mayors and some of those people from the cities are there. It's been one of the most informative meetings I've been to. And we're dealing with all this thing about enforcement and what's going on in the jail and in the community. And I'm going to ask you, please, to show up at the meeting next Friday, a week from Friday, and hear what people talk. I talked to the enforcement group here tonight and asked them if they could go ahead and get a good turnout of those people if we had the committee, we had the quorum court show up for that session next Friday morning. He assured me they would. So are we going to have any support for that? Are you guys interested in participating? I'm sorry?
7 a.m.
7 a.m. at the jail. And I think it'd be a very informative meeting. If you hadn't been there, I'm telling you something. There's a lot going on in our community that we don't hear about, that enforcement is having to deal with. So please come and participate and find out what's going on in Washington County. Thank you.
All right, Bowman. J.P. Madison?
I just want to ask, I know there has been a lot of emailing about the $67,000 jail study that had been done in the past, and since I can't really ask about it otherwise, could anybody give more information on that previous study so that maybe we can try to track it down? Because I know Mr. Lester's looked for it and hadn't found it, but I would be willing to try to pull some old JPs if anybody knew more info.
I guess that would only be the more senior JPs.
Well, because I looked back at the minutes and it said, JP Ecke said that she gave a copy to the sheriff. And I emailed the sheriff and,
Well, if you guys have some, please send some to us.
yeah, because I mean,
All
if
right.
there's another study, I think we should find it. And I'm
Sure.
happy to do a little digging, so, thanks.
All right, we got a motion to adjourn. We got a second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
We got another place we can go, Chillicothe. How you doing? Good. They got another place? No, they make them up there different, you don't know, this is regular like quarter cat. Different altogether. James, we had such a good time on the last
It was going to be the reports there.
We're ready to direct traffic.
The delay in response was because my emails were down and I wasn't receiving them. We talked to IT and said it was the 20th. I couldn't get anybody fingerprints, so I didn't get any.